أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الكلام أجمع الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. الصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، لا سيما ولي الله الحجة ابن الحسن صاحب الأمر والزمان. اللهم صل على محمد. روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين. صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله. صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله. يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة، يا غريب الغرباء، يا مظلوم كربلاء، السلام على من جعل الله الشفاء في تربته، السلام على من الإجابة تحت قبته، السلام على ساكن كربلاء. فيا ليتنا ثم يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي، يا سادتي، فنفوز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم: إني تارك فيكم الثقلين، كتاب الله وعترة أهل بيتي، ما إن تمسكتم بهما لن تضلوا بعدي أبدا. صدق النبي وآمنا به. نوروا مجالسكم بذكر محمد وآل محمد. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala within the Quran commands us to abide by the Ahlul Bayt, as we saw last night or through last night's discussion. And you find that the hadith of Rasulullah in regards to following the Ahlul Bayt in terms of seeking guidance to realize and to actualize the purpose of our existence are hadith that have reached the level of tawatur between ulama of the Amma as well as the ulama of the Khassa. Therefore, when you come and you find one of these hadith that are narrated, or one of these hadith which is narrated by both schools of thought, where Rasulullah makes a declaration, إِنِّي تَارِكٌ فِيكُمُ الثَّقَلَيْنَ, I leave behind for you two weighty things. Kitabullahi, the Quran, and number two, وَإِتْرَةِ أَهْلِ بَيْتِي. Rasulullah goes on to say that in regards to the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt together, مَا إِن تَمَسَّكْتُمْ بِهِمَا, so long as you abide to both these sources of guidance, the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt, لَن تَذِلُّ بَعْدِي أَبَدًا. يعني lam noon, a particle of negation until the end of time. Rasulullah says, so long as you adhere to both the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt, you shall never go astray. Notice over here the words that are used by Rasulullah. وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. Rasulullah does not speak from his own whim. He does not speak from his own desire. Rather, every word which is uttered by Rasulullah is inspiration and wahi, revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as per the Quran. And over the last few nights, we have been trying to establish this qaida, this rule of thumb, in that if you want to understand the depth of the words of Rasulullah and Ahlul Bayt, you have to match these words as per the Quran. Therefore, when Rasulullah says, مَا إِن تَمَسَّكْتُمْ بِهِمَا لَن تَذِلُّوا بَعْدِي أَبَدًا, you shall never go astray. The word which is used to denote astray, لَن تَذِلُّوا, تَذِلُّوا, one of the, you can say, derivatives of this word, تَذِلُّوا, in its verbal sense, taken from the word ضَال. ضَال, to go astray, and the one who has gone astray, ضالين. In Surah Al-Hamd, what do you say towards the end? اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب. Ya Allah, keep me on the right path, the path which you have blessed, and do not keep me غير المغضوب, Ya Allah. Keep me away from the path upon which your anger is. Yani keep me away from that path upon which you get angry. غير المغضوب عليه ولا الضالين. Keep me away from the path of those people who have gone astray. So this is a dua that you are doing in Surah Al-Hamd. Keep me away from those people who are astray. And in Hadith al-Thaqalayn, Rasulullah is saying, so long as you hang on to the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt, you shall never be astray. So in reality, in Surah Al-Hamd, towards the end, you are saying, Ya Allah, keep me on that path of Quran and Ahlul Bayt. لَن تَضِلُّ بَعْدِي أَبَدًا. For you find that the command from Rasulullah is to abide by the teachings of Ahlul Bayt. How do we actualize this hadith? How do we implement this hadith in our daily lives? We all know that haqq is with Ahlul Bayt. But how do we actualize this in this day and age? You find that when Rasulullah commands you to abide by Ahlul Bayt, this means that we need to submit ourselves to the teachings and the guidance of Ahlul Bayt in every aspect of our lives. Ya akhi, you want to learn how to recite salat? Learn it from Ahlul Bayt. You want to learn how to do wudu, which is the correct way of doing wudu? You take it from Ahlul Bayt. You want to learn the correct way of sawm? Learn it from Ahlul Bayt. You want to learn the correct manasik of Hajj? Learn it from Ahlul Bayt. You want to learn the correct way of worshipping Allah? Learn from Ahlul Bayt. How to recite dua, how to invoke Allah, how to get your hajat accepted? You got to follow the teachings of Ahlul Bayt. Ya akhi, How to eat, you have guidance from Ahlul Bayt. What to eat, you have guidance from Ahlul Bayt. When to eat, you have guidance from Ahlul Bayt. How to live a happy life, you have guidance from Ahlul Bayt. What is the best or prime economic model, you have guidance from Ahlul Bayt. What is the best political structure that is needed for man to govern himself successfully, you have guidance of Ahlul Bayt. Yani what is meant is when Rasulullah says, Ma in tamassaktum bi'ima lan tadillu ba'di abada. Yani everything in your life has to be taken from the teachings of Ahlul Bayt. Your mentality and the perceptions that you build in your daily life in regards to what is right and what is wrong is to be taken from Ahlul Bayt. What does Ahlul Bayt, for example, have to say about democracy? Your ideas and your perceptions about democracy need to be taken from Ahlul Bayt. What is the correct understanding, for example, of human rights taken from Ahlul Bayt? What is Islam's position, for example, on feminism or on what people would claim as male chauvinism? Where are the boundaries, where are the lines? Has to be taken from Ahlul Bayt. When it comes to politics, choosing a right political manhaj has to be taken from Ahlul Bayt. You find that you have a number of ideologies that influence us in our daily lives in regards to what is right and what is wrong. You have the secular influence that we are bombarded with. You have an atheistic culture that you are bombarded with. You are bombarded with monotheistic views that are non-Islamic from the Ahlul Kitab. And then you have polytheistic ideologies which you are bombarded and exposed to. And even within the Muslim nation, you have multiple ideologies and multiple theories over what is right and what is wrong. But the question is that enter as a lover of Ahlul Bayt, as somebody who claims to be Shi'i and a Mawali, do you build your perceptions of what is right and wrong in life from the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, or are you mukhalif to the views of Ahlul Bayt? Wal-'ayadu billah. And therefore, you find that submitting to the teachings of Ahlul Bayt is absolutely important in your daily life. And you cannot submit to the teachings of Ahlul Bayt unless you have ilm about Ahlul Bayt, which is why Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, that he places importance on seeking knowledge and making knowledge as the sha'ira or the sha'air, the slogans and the symbols through which the Muslim ummah is to be recognized. From the very first day, Rasulullah comes forward and he says, "Talabul faridatun ala kulli muslimin wa muslima." Seeking knowledge is a wajib obligation. Faridatun, just like the way salah is farida, like the way sawm is farida, like the way hajj and zakat is a farida, Rasulullah says, talabul ilm, seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim, male or female. And you find that seeking ilm, talabul ilm, you find that Rasul in the field, this seeking of ilm which is wajib encompasses ilm of the akhirah, ilm in regards to ideology as well as into the dunya, as well as the ilm of the dunya, ya akhi. There are certain sciences and there are certain fields and certain occupations where it becomes wajib kifai on a Muslim ummah. And this is not the course of my bahath, but to give you an idea of the importance that Islam stresses on the issue of knowledge. For you find, coming back to our talk, when the Rasulullah says that I have left behind for you two weighty things, the Ahlul Bayt and the Quran, he says as long as you adhere to the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt, you shall never go astray. And what is understood as that we need to submit to the teachings of Ahlul Bayt in every aspect of our lives. How do we actualize this? How do we materialize this? You find that submitting to the teachings and the guidance of Ahlul Bayt in this day and age is done through seeking guidance from the Hadith literature and the legacy that has been left behind for us over a period of 300 years. From the time of Rasulullah up to the time of the ghaibah of the 12th Imam, give, take, you have about 300 years worth of Islamic history and literature and legacy in terms of hadith. From hadith of Rasulullah up to the hadith of the 12th Imam. And you find that the previous generations and the followers of Ahlul Bayt, paid great importance in recording and in preserving the literature of Ahlul Bayt. You find that from all of our A'immah, each and every one of the major ashab and the major companions of each and every one of the imams, one of their outstanding qualities or their outstanding characters is that they authored a book in regards to hadith, preserving the hadith and the sciences of Ahlul Bayt. For you find Mitham al-Tammar al-Shaheed rahmatullah alayh, or Ridwanullahi alayhi, who we spoke about yesterday. Mitham al-Tammar was known to have written and authored a book in regards to the Fada'il of Amir al-Mu'mineen. You find that Asbagh ibn Nabata, who is one of those companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen through whom the final will of Amir al-Mu'mineen is narrated for us. He had authored a book in the lifetime of Amir al-Mu'mineen known as Ajaib Ahkam Amir al-Mu'mineen. Some of those fabulous and grandiose rulings of Amir al-Mu'mineen, edicts that he had delivered while he was in the court. And similarly you find that even from the ashab of Imam al-Hussein salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, you have one of the companions of Sayyid al-Shuhada by the name of Burayr. Burayr was one of the greatest reciters of Quran in the city of Kufa, was known as a Qari'. Not only did he recite Quran in the most beautiful of ways, but he was a Hafidh al-Quran, a person who had the highest level of eloquence when he spoke. Burayr himself had written 2 books in regards to hadith, which he himself had heard from Amir al-Mu'mineen and Imam Hassan. You find companions such as Sulaym bin Qais al-Hilali, who had written down in detail the events that had happened in Saqifa after the martyrdom of Rasulullah, and an account which he took from Salman, for example. And throughout history, up to the companions of the 11th Imam, you find that every Imam's companions, a number of them stood out because of this great effort that they took in the recording narrations and preserving them for future generations, such that up to the time of Imam al-Askari, what was known to be mashhur amongst the followers of Ahlul Bayt is that we had a legacy or a collection of books known as the Usul al-Bami'ah. 400 core books authored by the companions of the Ahlul Bayt, from the hadith of Ahlul Bayt that they had heard directly from the Ma'soom Imam. And you find that this tradition and this legacy of compiling the hadith of Ahlul Bayt continued even after the ghaibah of the 12th Imam. And this was a khidmah at the very forefront that was put forward for us by Shaykh al-Kulayni rahmatullah alayhi. Shaykh al-Kulayni, within Ghaybat al-Sughra, authored Kitab al-Kafi at a time where he was under the watch and he was under the guidance of the 4 Nawab of our 12th Imam. For you find that the ulama and the maraja of the time come towards Shaykh Kulayni and they ask him to author a book which would be sufficient for them as a means of guidance within the ghaibah of this 12th Imam. For Shaykh al-Kulayni takes 20 years to compile this Kitab al-Kafi. And you find that from amongst one of the fantastic aspects of Kitabul Kafi, which makes it stand out from all of the books, is that Shaykh al-Kulaini paid particular attention to recording the chain of narrators together with the narrations itself. And you find that other scholars followed in the footsteps of Shaykh al-Kulaini. Shaykh al-Tusi went on to author Kitab Istibsar and Kitab Tahdib, and Shaykh Saduq after him, Man La Yahdaruhu al-Faqih. For you find that these 4 books are the fundamental books of Hadith around which our Shia Madhab's teachings are based upon. Even till today. Marja Taqleed, the Mujtahid cannot become a Mujtahid unless he has mastered Kitabul Kafi, Istibsar, Tahdib, and Man La Yahdaruhu al-Faqih. And then we find that ulama down the line came forward and they built upon this great effort and this great project. And you have the likes of Shaykh al-Amali, who authored Wasa'il al-Shia, and the Alama al-Majlisi rahmatullah alayhi, who authored Bihar al-Anwar, 110 volumes, an encyclopedia of Hadith. MashaAllah. For you find that within this Hadith literature that we have, unfortunately, you also find throughout history that the followers of Ahlul Bayt were subject to persecution and were subject to all sorts of punishments and to be ostracized from the community for their affiliation with Ahlul Bayt. For you find that at the time of Muawiyah al-La'in, a person who narrated a single fadila, a single merit from the fada'il of Amir al-Mu'mineen, you find that Muawiyah had given strict orders that any person who can raise a merit of Amir al-Mu'mineen, yani a merit of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, he would say that a person's house should be demolished, his stipend from the Baytul Mal is to be cut off, and there is no security for him. A person used to get killed because of narrating the fada'il of Amir al-Mu'mineen. This was the time of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, where a person who was just known for his love for Ahlul Bayt. Look at the letter that Imam al-Hussein writes towards Muawiyah upon the istishhad of Imam al-Hassan. Imam al-Hussein says to Muawiyah, and you are the one who persecuted the lovers of my father, such that you forced them out of their lands, you forced them out of their houses, you cut their hands and you cut their legs and you pierced their eyes with nails. Look at the persecution which the lovers and the followers of Ahlul Bayt have gone through. The Abil for reciting qasidas and marthiyas, Fada'il of Ahlul Bayt, had to live in fear. He used to walk with his own cross for 50 years because of the fear that he is going to be crucified. وَلِذَلِكَ أنتم إخواني, do not take for granted this freedom and this safety and these opportunities that we have in our majalis to narrate the Fada'il of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Some people come and they downplay and they mock these majalis fada'il. They say, what is this majalis fada'il and this majlis wahwa? We don't want to learn fada'il. We want to learn more knowledge. We want more information. We want to become more learned. Ya akhi, these fada'il of Ahlul Bayt are the basis of our deen. The poet says, just for you to contemplate how the fada'il of Ahlul Bayt have reached us despite all the persecution, in itself is a dalil that Amir al-Mu'mineen is the wasi of Allah. He says on one hand, half the world tried to omit or tried to cover the fada'il of Amir al-Mu'mineen by killing their narrators, and another half of the world tried to conceal the fada'il of Amir al-Mu'mineen out of taqiyya, between taqiyya and between the killing of the people who narrated. Allah ensured that the fada'il of Amir al-Mu'mineen will be recited until the day of judgment. Yawm al-Qiyamah, the Malaika will recite the Fada'il of Amir al-Mu'mineen in the Mahshar. For in any case, you find that the Shi'as of Ahlul Bayt were persecuted for the love that they had for Ahlul Bayt and the efforts that they took in recording and in spreading the traditions of Ahlul Bayt. For you find that across all this time, in history and even in contemporary history, Shaykh al-Tusi, if you were to describe Shaykh Tusi is a gift from Allah to the Shia Ummah in the Ghaibah of the 12th Imam. Shaykh Tusi, Marja Taqlid, Al-Kabir in Baghdad. There were two major libraries in Baghdad at that time. One of the libraries was of Sayyid Murtada, 80,000 manuscripts. You find that during the time of Shaykh Tusi, the Hanbalis of Baghdad, due to their hatred towards the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, lit the entire library of Shaykh Tusi on fire. 80,000 manuscripts from the Hadith of Ahlul Bayt. Manuscripts, ya ikhwani, were burnt. How much of our traditions have we lost out due to acts of violence such as these? And for this reason, and the ta'assur that the people had, the Mukhalifin had against Shaykh Tusi, he was forced to migrate from Baghdad to Najaf. He established the Hawza Ilmiya in Najaf al-Ashraf at the doorstep of Amir al-Mu'mineen until the end of his life. Shaykh Tusi is buried in Najaf, and his masjid is right next to the Haram of Amir al-Mu'mineen on the way when you come out from Mount Tusi to go to Wadi al-Salam. In any case, you find that our hadith literature, our talk is how we submit to the teachings of Ahlul Bayt. And we say to submit to the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, we need to submit to the hadith of Ahlul Bayt. And the hadith of Ahlul Bayt which are captured within these books. And you find that the attacks against the teachings of Ahlul Bayt were twofold. When they attempted to kill the conveyors of the knowledge and they failed, and they attempted to destroy the teachings of Ahlul Bayt by burning libraries and whatnot, and they failed. You find another tactic is to attack Ahlul Bayt through the institution of Hadith. And unfortunately, you find attacks on the literature of Hadith from people within the madhab and outside of the madhab. Where you come forward, where people come forward and they make claims, they say all these hadith upon which your usul-ud-din is based, these hadith upon which your ma'arif is based, these hadith upon which your ahkam are based, hadith upon which, for example, fada'il are based, hadith upon which your du'as and ziyaras are conveyed, all these hadith are da'if, all these hadith are weak and unauthentic narrations. How do we come and how do we address concerns like these or misconceptions like these? That majority of our ma'arif, majority of our traditions and legacies, whether they are in issues of usul-ud-din or furu-ud-din, are built upon hadith that are unauthentic or fabricated. And this issue has reached to such a level that whether it is on the mimbar or off the mimbar, you have every other Zayd and Fulan, when you bring forward for them hadith of Ahlul Bayt, they reject the hadith and they say, no, this hadith is weak and this is unauthentic and this is fabricated. Baba, we have conditions and we have criteria and we have a science based on which we either accept hadith or we reject hadith. And it is important for us to do this. You find that within the world of hadith, those hadith are divided, you will find within our school of thought, are divided into a number of categories. You have a first category of hadith which are classified as tawatur. And if you bear with me, even though some of the terms are technical, inshallah, the benefit is for all of us. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The first category of hadith are known as hadith that are tawatur, that have reached the level of tawatur. Yani tawatur is that type of hadith which has been narrated by so many companions across the passage of time, such that there is absolutely no doubt in the fact that this hadith emanates from a Ma'soom Imam or from Rasulullah. The number of narrators are so many across the passage of time, such that the probability that each and every one of them have conspired to lie, this possibility is impossible. One example of this is Hadith al-Ghadir, when Rasulullah declared, Man kuntum mawla fahada aliyum mawla, hadith which has reached the level of tawatur between the amma as well as the khassa. Another example of this hadith is Inni tarikum fikum al-faqalayn, Kitabullahi wa itrati ahlu bayti. Ahlu bayti and not sunnati. And there is a whole lecture on this issue of sunnati. But in any case, we go by what is mashhur. Inni tarikum fikum al-faqalayn, Kitabullahi wa itrati ahlu bayti. It's reached the level of tawatur. This is one category of hadith, in that the number of narrators are so many across the passage of time that there is absolutely no doubt that if this hadith has been conveyed from a ma'soom, regardless of whether it is Rasulullah or from the Imam. And then you have categories of hadith which are known as khabarun wahid. These are a group or a classification of narrations that have not reached the level of tawatur, but in itself are still a hujjah, are still counted as a hujjah. Yani the hadith is binding in terms of its obligations and in terms of its meanings. So within this khabarul wahid, you find that the ulama will categorize the hadith into a number of categories. You have the musnad and the mursal, the one in which the chain of narrators is continuous and the one in which the chain of narrators is discontinuous. The ones that are discontinuous we leave for now. Chain of narrators is continuous. From amongst those that are continuous, you have those that are mu'tabar and you have those that are ghayr mu'tabar. You have those which are considerable and those that are not considerable. Within those that are considerable, you find the ulama divided into four. You have hadith which is sahih, you have a hadith which is muwaththaq, you have a hadith which is hasan, and then you have hadith which is da'if. Hadith which is sahih, yani each and every one of if it is established that everyone in the chain of narrators are Shia Ithna Ashari and all of them are just people, and this just adala is a very loose translation. If there were credible just people, each and everyone within the chain of narrations is credible and just and is Ithna Ashari, then this hadith is categorized as sahih. Sometimes you have a hadith which is muwaththaq. Muwaththaq, yani not everybody in the chain of narrations is Shia Ithna Ashari. You could have somebody within the chain of narrators who is from the Mukhalifin, who doesn't only believe in the wilayah of Amir al-Mu'mineen to begin with. Or you could have somebody who is Shia but not Ithna Ashari. You could have somebody like the people who are from the Waqifiyya. They believed in Imam Ali, believed in Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, Imam Sajjad, Imam Baqir, Imam Sadiq. They stopped at Imam al-Qadim. They didn't believe in Imam al-Qadim. Or they believed in Imam al-Qadim, they didn't believe in Imam Rida. So if you have a hadith where within the chain of narrators, one or some of them are ghayr imamiyya, are not from the Shia Ithna Ashari, then this hadith is classified as muwaththaq. And then you have a third category of hadith which is known as Hasan. Hasan is that category of hadith where the people are not necessarily Shia, are not necessarily from the Imamiyya or Ghayr Imamiyya, but their general reputation is good. This is three. And then you have hadith which is da'if. Hadith which is da'if, yani what? Hadith that does not fall under the first three categories. It is neither sahih, It is neither muwaththaq, neither hasan. This is classified as da'if. Now, this is where the misconception happens. In that people come forward and say the hadith which is da'if is a hadith which is fabricated or unauthentic. And this is where the misconception lies. Who said that the hadith da'if is unauthentic? Who said that the hadith da'if is fabricated? Ya akhi, a hadith which is fabricated is known as a hadith which is mawdu'. Hadith which is da'if by definition is that hadith which in itself is not sufficient to be considered to be a binding proof over the Muslims. Rather, what is needed is that this hadith, in order to authenticate it, you need supporting evidence, either from other hadith or from historical indications that allow you to validate this hadith. Because the means through which it has reached us, we do not have enough confidence whether it comes from an imam or not by itself. Hence, a hadith which is da'if. This is a great misconception and an academic disaster for somebody to come forward and reject a hadith or to imply that hadith da'if is unauthentic. No. When you say it is unauthentic, it is established that it is a lie attributed to the imam. Whereas the da'if is not at that level. Just the manner in which it has reached us is questionable. And you find that within the hadith there are a number of reasons as to why the hadith that has reached us are da'if. So an example of a hadith which is da'if. Bear with me even if it's a little bit technical on this level. But the meaning and the conclusion is important. So you have a hadith which is narrated by Imam Sadiq, for example. Who narrated from Imam Sadiq? Ali narrated. Who narrated from Hassan? Who narrated from Amr? Who narrated from Zayd? Who narrated from Imam Sadiq? Tell you. We know, you go back to the books of Rijal, you find Zayd, Shia, Imami, credible person. Next person in the chain, we have Zayd. Now we have Amr. You find Shia, credible. You come back to Ali, you find him that he was not Shia, but he was from the Waqifiyya, but he's credible. You take him. You come and you find Hassan. Hassan, majhul. He's unknown. The ulama of Rijal don't write anything about him in regards to his biography because he's majhul in that his ideological state and his ability to convey hadith is unknown. There is a question mark over him. The entire hadith is categorized as da'if. But does this mean that the hadith in itself is wrong or fabricated? No, because there could be 1,000 reasons why this Hassan in particular has decided to be majhul. He has decided to remain anonymous. One of the reasons why a person decides to remain anonymous is because of taqiyya. Ya akhi, because of the killings that he would be subjected to. If he was known to be a famous narrator of this hadith, he decides to remain unknown. Therefore, the issue when it comes to rejecting hadith that are da'if are not that simple. During the time of Imam al-Askari, he used to tell his Shias in the markets, do not say salam to me. Ajib. He says, do not say salam to me. The Khalafa or the Khulafa from Bani Abbas are watching and monitoring you. If you say salam to me, they will know you are from my Shia and they will persecute me. A person who lives in this type of situation, do you expect him that within the books of Rijal, his accreditations will come out that he was a credible, well-known lover of Ahlul Bayt? No. This has to remain majhul. This has to remain anonymous. And therefore you find that the majority of the hadith which are da'if, you cannot reject them on this basis of the sanad in itself. This is a big mistake. In fact, we have hadith from Imam al-Sadiq or Imam al-Baqir refusing us and warning us about rejecting hadith that are da'if. Unfortunately, the way this word da'if is used, it's almost as if it's like a swear word. Ya akhi, when you say the hadith is da'if, the first thing that comes into your mind is the hadith is unauthentic. This correlation in itself is wrong. You have hadith that are da'if, by the way, are also used to build hadith which then become mutawatir. Hadith which are da'if are then used to make up hadith that are mustafid. These definitions in itself have time. But look at this hadith from the Imam, where he cautions and he refuses the Shia to reject those hadith that are even considered to be da'if. Hadith is narrated in Basair al-Darajat. We narrate this with a lot of salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Hadith narrated in Basair al-Darajat by Abi Ubaidah on authority of Abu Ja'far. Abu Ja'far yani Imam al-Baqir. He says, Ama wallah inna ahabba ashabi ilayyi أورعهم وأفقههم وأكتمهم بحديثنا. Imam al-Baqir says, the most loved Shia to me, the ones who I love the most, are those who have the highest level of taqwa. They fear Allah. وأفقههم, those people who take time to learn and contemplate over the rulings of the religion. وأكتمهم بحديثنا, and those who conceal our hadith. And what is understood by conceal our hadith? Yani they conceal the secrets of Ahlul Bayt. There are certain secrets of Ahlul Bayt in the Janab that you cannot tell each and every other person. They don't have the level of Iman to accept this hadith, for example. This is one side. This is the important part. وَإِنَّ أَسْوَأَهُمْ إِنِّي حَالًا وَأَنْقَتَهُمْ إِلَيِّ. Imam al-Baqir says, the most despicable of my followers. Notice the words of Imam. He's not talking about the Mukhalif. He's not talking about the Amma. He's talking about his own companions. He's saying the most despicable and the worst of my companions are those الذي إذا سمع الحديث ينسب إلينا ويروى عنا فلم يعقله وَلَمْ يَقْبَلُهُ قَلْبُهُ اشْمَأَزَّ مِنْهُ وَجَحَدَهُ وَكَفَرَ بِمَنْ دَعَنَ بِهِ وَهُوَ لَا يَدْرِي لَأَنَّ الْحَدِيث مِنْ عِنْدِنَا خَرَجْ وَإِلَيْنَا أُسْنَدْ فَيَكُونْ بِذَلِكَ خَارِجًا عَنْ وِلَايَتِنَا. Imam al-Baqir says, the worst and the most despicable and the most disliked companion of mine is the one when a hadith of ours reaches him. He does not understand the hadith. He doesn't have the capacity to understand the hadith because the hadith does not make sense to him. He ends up rejecting our hadith. He ends up disputing or he ends up rebuking those people who are acting upon this hadith which he doesn't understand. And in essence, when you reject the hadith and you don't know, perhaps it has emanated from us or it has not emanated, you don't know, but there is a chance that this hadith originates from us, and if you reject that hadith, you have come out of our wilayah. Yani, Musibah in this day and age. Every fulan and fulan comes forward, they pick a hadith from Al-Kafi. I don't understand, it doesn't make sense to me, this hadith is not right. Who are you? If a hadith doesn't make sense to me, it doesn't mean that it is wrong. There are secrets of Ahlul Bayt that are accompanied within this. And particularly when it comes to Fada'il of Ahlul Bayt. Enta ya akhi, take from me, when you have a person who rejects a fada'il of Ahlul Bayt by telling you that this hadith is da'if, know from the bottom of your heart that this person doesn't know the alif or the ba of usulul hadith altogether. Hi da'wah khatira, this is a big claim, ya akhi. To reject the fada'il. Now this is the natija of our entire lecture before we go into the masail. To reject the fada'il of Ahlul Bayt based on the sanad is an act of ignorance. Tell you why. Number one, we already understood that a lot of the hadith that in regards to the fada'il of Ahlul Bayt, they are da'if. One of the reasons why they might be da'if is because one of the narrators is unknown, and he may be unknown because of the severe state of taqiyya which he was practicing. This is one. There are maybe 7 or 8 other answers which we will leave for another occasion, inshallah. However, ikhwan, when you want to analyze or when you want to authenticate the hadith, not only is the chain of narrators important, but at the same time you have a ruling which is given to you by Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, when he tells you that if you come across a hadith and you are not sure whether it emanates from us or not, then what you need to do is you need to take this hadith and compare it to the teachings of the Quran. Ahsantum. Imam al-Baqir speaks in the same way as his grandfather Rasulullah. Rasulullah said, "Inni tarikun fikum uffakalayn, kitabullahi wa itrati." Over here Imam al-Baqir is telling you that if you come across a hadith and you are not sure whether it emanates from us or not, refer back to where? Refer back to the Quran. Now, when it comes to fada'il of Ahlul Bayt, and in particular fada'il of Amir al-Mu'mineen, there is not a single fada'il of Amir al-Mu'mineen you can reject, because the basis of the fada'il of Amir al-Mu'mineen is within the Quran itself. How? I give you an example. Kitab al-Fada'il of Amir al-Mu'mineen. It is narrated that during the time of Amir, when he was granted the Zahiri leadership in the city of Kufa, people from the villages or the deserts came with a janazah. Now this mu'jiza or this fadila which I am going to narrate for you of Amir al-Mu'mineen from Kitab al-Fada'il, Fadl ibn Sha'ban, they say that the hadith is da'if. Now just because the chain of narrators is da'if, does this mean this fadila is true or not true? This is what we want to establish through the Quran. So they say, during the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the people from the deserts came into the city of Kufa with a janazah. And a big procession, 80-90 people came into Masjid al-Kufa. They came and they said, "We want Amir al-Mu'mineen." Amir al-Mu'mineen was sitting in his high court in Masjid al-Kufa, where today, inshallah, Allah gave us the chance to perform the ziyarah of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And the ziyarah of Masjid al-Kufa, you find that there is Dikkatul Qada in the Sahar. Dikkatul Qada was what you could say today the high court of Amir al-Mu'mineen, where he would deliver verdicts. They came to Amir al-Mu'mineen. They put the janazah in front of him. The Mu'mineen said, "What happened?" They said, "Somebody in our village killed this young boy and we want to know who the qatil is." Amir al-Mu'mineen removed the tabut. He sees, this is a 20-25-year-old young boy at the peak of his youth who has been killed. And they come to him and they say that, "We have an idea, we suspect who the qatil might be. But if we are wrong in our suspicion and we kill the wrong person, these two kabilas are going to go into war and our entire village is going to get disrupted. So we said the only person who can solve our problem is the Khalifa of Allah and the Wasi on earth. So we want you, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, to bring this dead person to life, because there is no witness to the crime. This boy has been killed. We suspect Fulan to be the murderer. If he's the wrong murderer and the two tribes going to war, the entire village is finished." Imagine the tenseness of the situation. So they said, "Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, because you are the Khalifa of Allah and you are the Wasi of Allah, we want you to bring this mayyit back to life so he can tell us who has killed him." Ajib. Amir al-Mu'mineen yuhyi wa yumit bi-idhnillah. Amir al-Mu'mineen can give life and can give death. Bi-idhnillah. With the permission of Allah. Ya akhi. So the narration mentions that Amir al-Mu'mineen put his hand on the tabut, or he put his blessed hand on the chest of this young man. He recited something, Allahu Akbar, the janazah through Amir al-Mu'mineen bi-idhnillah came back to life. He came back to life and he says, Assalamu alayka ya Amir al-Mu'mineen ya Ali ibn Abi Talib. Amir al-Mu'mineen replies back to the salam. He says to, if your tribesmen are asking, who is the one who killed you? The person says that Fulan bin Fulan killed me for Fulan bin Fulan reason. Once it was established that Fulan bin Fulan has killed this person, Amir al-Mu'mineen goes back to this young man and he says to him, oh man, do you want to remain in this dunya or do you want to go back to the alam al-barzakh and die? The man says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, I wish to live so that I can be a servant of you. Amir al-Mu'mineen allows him to live until this young man became shaheed in the battles that Amir al-Mu'mineen fought. Now, a person comes and tells you, Mu'jiza, Fadila of Amir al-Mu'mineen, but the hadith is da'if. If the hadith is da'if, ma'anwat, yani, we don't have confidence that it has reached us in an authentic manner. Now, this is what we say. Hadith, even though it is da'if, cannot be discounted. Because even if a hadith is discounted, we look for indications from the Quran. The Quran in itself says that Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, has the power to give life and death, and a power given to him by Allah. Ajib. They tell you where in the Quran. Refer back to the verse of the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكُلَّ شَيْءٍ أَحْشَيْنَاهُ فِي إِمَامٍ مُبِينٍ. Ulama of the Amma and the Khassa, all of them have ittifaq that this Imam Mubin is Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib. شيء أحسناه في إمام مبين. رب العزة والجلال is saying that we gave the knowledge of everything to them. That Imam al-Mubin, Amir al-Mu'mineen, yani knowledge of everything, even knowledge of life and death, and Ismul Arba was given to Amir al-Mu'mineen. Therefore, based on the Quran, you cannot reject this incident. Based on Aqidah, if Nabi Isa was allowed by Allah to bring people to life and death, then what about Ali, who is the master of Isa? Nabi Isa prays salat behind the son of Imam Ali, yani Imam al-Hujjah upon the Dhuhr. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The narrations mention that when Imam al-Hussein left from Mecca to go towards Kufa and from Kufa eventually to Karbala, he passed through an area known as Tha'alabiyya. And within this area, Imam al-Hussein stopped with his camp in order to fetch water from the common well, the well which was on the path of, you could say, on the main road of the journey. As he was going, as the companions of Imam al-Hussein pitched their tent there, and they were fetching the water and renewing their water supplies, there was the tent of Wahab, where his mother and his wife were living, and it seemed that they were traveling as well. So Imam al-Hussein goes to the tent of Wahab. He sees his mother and she says to him, "O woman, where is your son Wahab?" Ajib. So the woman got astounded. Who is this person who knows my son? And when she looked at Imam al-Hussein and the nur that was emanating from Imam al-Hussein, she was overtaken by his beauty and by his jalala and his haiba. So she says to him, "My son has gone to fetch water and shall come back in the evening." The narrations mention Imam al-Hussein said to this Wahab, to the mother, that when your son returns back, tell him that Hussein ibn Ali has asked him to fulfill the dream. This is all. And Imam al-Hussein walked away. And the woman was astounded. What dream is this man talking about? How does he even know my son? Imam al-Hussein left towards Karbala that same night. In the evening, Wahab comes home. His mother says to him, "Oh son, there was a person by the name of Hussein ibn Ali, and he had the simag, had the characters and the trademarks of those people who were selected by Allah. He came to our tent and he said that I should pass a message for you. Oh Wahab, you need to fulfill the dream and be truthful to your covenant." What dream is this person talking about? As soon as Wahab heard this, he fell down to the ground. "Oh mother, last night I saw Ruhullah, Nabi Isa ibn Maryam in my dream. He came to me in my dream, and by his side there were 4 other men who were standing. Nabi Isa said to me, 'Oh Wahab, do you love me?' I said to him, 'Of course, you are the Nabi of the Anbiya of Allah. You are the Ruhullah. How can I not love you? And your mother was Maryam al-Batul.' Nabi Isa said to Wahab in the dream, 'Well, if you love me, then it is obligatory upon you to serve and to give your life for the son of this prophet.' He said, I turned around, next to Nabi Isa was Rasulullah. Next to Rasulullah was Amir al-Mu'mineen. Next to Amir al-Mu'mineen was Imam Hassan, and behind them was Mawlati Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra. Allah. Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra, her masa'ib is ajeeb in regards to Imam al-Hussein. Allah. Wahab says, as soon as I saw this, I woke up from my dream, and now that you tell me from the descriptions that this is Hussein ibn Ali, I have declared my allegiance to Imam al-Hussein, and I will join him and seek martyrdom in his way. His mother and his wife also decided to follow him. They meet up with Imam al-Hussein. Wahab, his mother and his wife all recite the Shahada, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Ashhadu anna Ali waliyullah, until they say that Imam Hussein is the Hujjah. This is the beauty of the companions of Imam al-Hussein. Wahab, who was from the Christians, ended up becoming a muwali for Imam al-Hussein. The narrations mention that on the day of Ashura, when the war drums began to beat from the side of Shimar al-La'in, and an attack was made upon the followers of Imam al-Hussein, the battle was severe until the dust settled down from the hooves of the horses and the trampling of the horses. When a number of the companions of Imam al-Hussein were killed, the following companions retreated back, and then they went out on individual duels. Sometimes they went in duels in 2, until after the Shahada of Burayr, the time of Wahab came to go into the battlefield. He went and sought the permission of he went and sought permission from his mother. His mother in fact said to him, "Oh Wahab, I want you to go out and I want you to gain Shahada for your master Imam al-Hussein." Wahab was 25 years of age. He had been married only 17 days ago. Ya Shabab, look at the imtihan that the lovers of Imam al-Hussein has given. A person who has just converted into Islam, a person who is just recently married only 17 days ago. Look at the aqidah of the mother. Look at the tarbiyah of the mother. The mother says to Wahab, "Oh Wahab, go out and I want you to give your life in the sake of Imam al-Hussein." Allah. Wahab says that I was getting ready to go into the battlefield. I put on my armor and I took my sword. At this time my wife came running to me. She held my hand and she held my legs. She said to me, "Oh Wahab, do not make me me a widow in my young age. You cannot blame her. Woman who was married only 17 days ago and the husband is walking towards death. She began to cry and she began to weep. And then she says to, the mother says to Wahab, oh Wahab, have trust in Allah and there is victory for you in Jannah if you help the son of Rasulullah. Go into the battlefield. The woman, the wife was crying. She said to Wahab, if you must go, then I want you to come into the tent of Imam al-Hussein and I want you to make 2 promises towards me. The man says, okay. Wahab takes his wife. His wife's name was Hania. Wahab and Hania go, they stand in front of Imam al-Hussein in the Mukhayyam. The Hania says to Imam al-Hussein, oh my master, as you know that this is my newly married husband. I have no father, I have no brothers. After his death I will remain abandoned. My first request is that when my husband is killed, that you let me be a part of the rest of the women. Let me join the tents of Ahlul Bayt and be a servant of Zainab and Kulthum. Imam al-Hussein said, agree. And then the woman said, my second request is for my husband. And Imam al-Hussein, you are witness that when my husband becomes shaheed and he attains Jannah, oh Wahab, I want you to take a pledge that you will not forget me on the day of judgment, that you will not separate from me in Jannah. Oh Wahab, you are giving your life for Imam al-Hussein, I agree, but in the Akhirah I want that we will live our lives together. If we cannot live our lives together in the dunya, we will live them together in the Akhirah. Wahab said, I agree. Imam al-Hussein, when he saw the emotions, he began to weep and cry. Families are being wrecked and families are driven apart because but their love for Imam al-Hussein leads them towards Shahada. Wahab went into the battlefield and he cried out, Bismillah wa billah wa ala sabilillah. He entered into the battlefield and he began to attack the kuffar from the right. He attacked the kuffar from the left. The narration mentions he killed 51 of the enemies and sent them to Jahannam wa bi'as al-masir. When they were not able to counter Wahab, Shibal al-La'in cried out, attack him from every direction. The horsemen surrounded Wahab in a circle. This one would attack him with a sword. This one would attack him with a spear. They mentioned 70 spears and 70 swords were pierced into the body of Wahab. When Wahab fell down to the ground, another one of the enemies came and he struck Wahab at the top of his head. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. As soon as he fell down to the ground, one of the enemies began to cut the head of Wahab. He lifted the severed head and he threw it into the tents of Imam al-Hussein. The mother of Wahab saw the severed head of her son. She began to cry. She began to wipe the blood from the face of her son. And she said to him, congratulations, O son, for having reached Jannah. When the wife heard that her husband has been killed, she ran into the Maidan. She sits on the decapitated and beheaded body of her husband. She takes the blood from his chest. She wipes it on her face. Then she says, Ya Allah, I will complain to you. This is how I was made a widow. When Shibal al-La'in saw this, he told his slave Rustam, go and kill this woman. The woman was crying over the dead body of her husband. This Rustam al-La'in comes with a tent pole. He hits the wife of Wahab Haniya at the back of her head. He hit her in such a manner that the woman died next to her husband on the Maidan. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. What type of kuffar, what type of beasts are these in Karbala that they didn't even leave the women alone? This incident of Hania reminds me the incident of Sayyidah Sukaina and Masa'ib Istamam. Allah, on Shabe Ghariba, when the tents were lit on fire and the women went running in every direction. Sayyidah Sukaina ran into the Maktab. She ran into the Maidan looking for the body of her father, Imam al-Hussein. All the bodies are in the Maidan. Imam al-Hussein's body is without a blessed head. How does she recognize the body of her father? She saw a noor coming out from the body. So she threw herself and she said, oh my father, in her dream. And Imam al-Hussein gives a message, and this is a message for each and every one of you in the majlis. Sayyidah Sukaina, when she fainted, she saw Imam al-Hussein in her dream. Imam al-Hussein says to her, "Oh my daughter Sukaina, grant my salams to my Shia." Allah. Is remembering the Shias. He says, "Give my salams to my Shia and say to them," what did Imam al-Hussein say? Imam al-Hussein said, "Mahma sharibtum udbama'in fadhkuruni." Imam al-Hussein says to Sayyidah Sukaina, tell my Shias whenever they are, that every time they drink a glass of water, tell them to remember my thirst. Allah, Allah. Imam al-Hussein says, whenever you hear about a shaheed or a gharib, fadibuni, cry for me. And then, what was the akhir, what was the last tamanna of Imam al-Hussein? He says, tell my Shias, I wish you were there on the day of Ashura to see how I quench the thirst of my infant Ali al-Asghar. هذا